Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for joining me for today's tournament video. So today we are on, obviously, round 2, part 16. Now, I have decided that on Friday I am going to go ahead and have a 2-part episode. On Monday or Friday morning, I am going to post a 7-minute quick video. It's going to be a quick review video. And then on Friday night, I am going to go live for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. It all depends on how much information I decide I want to put out. If there's any people that actually do tune in during that live show, if there's a lot of questions, I'll obviously spend time answering those questions. Now, if there's like 2 or 3 people that are coming in and asking questions or don't really have any questions for me, I'll put out the information that I need to and then sign off. So if there's obviously nobody on, then it'll, like I said, it'll be like a 15 or 20 minute video. It'll be just like I'm posting a video like I am right now. So, but I did put out a poll, and you know what? I've had like 3 people respond, and the two out of 3 people responded, said they don't care for a live show. So it doesn't seem like it's something that anybody really cares about anyways. So again, I just kind of want to go live because I want to give the opportunity for people to ask questions and kind of, live chat. I don't go live that often. I've only done a handful of live shows during the duration of my channel. One of the topics I do want to bring up is the LJN tournament. One of the things I am contemplating is squashing the tournament. I know I'm only in the second round, but I think I might just stop the tournament altogether. Look, I'm being honest, guys. I mean, I think there's only like 10 people that actually watch this tournament, and if the fan base isn't there, if people aren't interested in a certain video or a certain topic of videos that I make, then it just doesn't make sense to make that particular video. There are videos that I was interested in making before, like TikTok compilation videos or prank compilation videos or horror compilation videos that I was interested in making, and I really wanted those type of videos to be sort of weekly type of uploads and whatnot, but you get like 10 views and those videos have been up for like weeks or months, and it's like, man, there's absolutely no interest in those videos whatsoever, right? So, you know what? If the interest isn't there, there's no point of making those sort of videos. So at the same time, if there's no interest in these tournaments, that kind of ties my hand. At this point, I kind of feel like, yeah, I wake up in the morning, I turn on YouTube when the episode premieres, and I watch the episode. I drink my coffee or I eat my cereal, whatever I choose, and I watch the episode. That's fine. But if I'm just going to be making the episodes for myself, there are plenty of episodes I could make for myself that a lot of other viewers are going to enjoy as well. So I don't have to necessarily make tournament videos. So I know, woe is me, right? But I am going to probably put out at least another episode. At the very least, I want to at least say, hey, I completed round 2. So with this being the 16th episode, I am going to try my best to at least finish off the second round. At least that is the current goal. And I will talk about it more during that live show on Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys are interested. Otherwise, obviously, if you do miss that live show, you will have the opportunity, of course, to watch it, after the live show, and once it populates on the channel. So if you do miss it, it's no big deal. You'll still get a chance to watch it later. Yeah, I got a couple stuff in, new orders, stuff from Coliseum, Mattel Coliseum. So new review videos for those will be coming in. From the Big Rubber guys, finally got in, I believe it was Series 7. So new review videos for those figures coming in. And those are probably going to be done over the weekend. So I'm also going to be moving away from like these extra long review videos. Now, with the big rubber guys, because of the sort of figures that we received, I'm thinking about wanting to stop like these massive 20-30 minute long videos during my reviews and kind of do like these 7 to 10 minute reviews. But with the amount of figures, or with the sort of figures that we received, I kind of want to do these sort of comparison videos. So I'm like really interested in kind of comparing them to previous sort of figures that we had, you know, from LJN or from Grand Toys or from like Ram Treasures, etc. Right? So I actually do want that to be a little bit longer of a video. So if it does become like a 25, 30, 35 minute video, I have a lot to say on the subject. So I might break it down to 2 videos. It might be a very quick 7-minute video for the initial review, and then it might be like a secondary video where I kind of go more in depth with a much longer discussion video. So that's something to kind of expect over the weekend as it leads into next week. But that's for this weekend and next week, and again, up until Thursday and Friday. Friday will be the review video for one of the Coliseum figures, and then of course that night will be the live action, or the live show. But let's dive into today's episode, which is the tournament. And as I said, we are on round 2, part 16. So, first matchup for today is going to feature, from Wrestling Writer, his Bret Hart, as he squares off against White Shirt Referee. Next is going to feature White Trunks Jim Brunzell, and he will do battle against Marty Jannetty. Big Boss Man, and he will take on Macho Man from Random Treasures. And last matchup is going to feature Goldust, as he takes on Mark Hackenberg's Billy Jack Haynes. Alright, let's pause the video and let's get these figures pulled. Alright, first matchup from Wrestling Writer, Bret Hart takes on White Shirt Referee. Now, these are actually 2 absolutely elite figures. Now, I kind of rate the referee figure. I think most people put the referee as such a generic piece that it's probably on a very low tier group among their figures, because I think most people are very simple-minded. Well, I don't say simple-minded. That's a horrible way to look at people when they think about this figure. No, wrong choice of words. I think they simply look at it simple-minded. They simply look at the figure as nothing more than a referee. No, when I look at this figure, I look at it as so much more. Like when I look at guys like Freddie Blassie, right? I don't look at Freddie Blassie as just a manager. I look at Freddie Blassie as an actual wrestler. I don't look at Lou Albano as a wrestler. I don't look at Mr. Fuji as a manager. I look at him as a wrestler. So when I look at the referee, I don't look at it, hey, he's just in there to count or to referee the match. He, to me, is a bona fide wrestler as well. And the referee is just another gimmick. So this is a bona fide character that I could utilize if I wanted to. If I'm a 1980s kid, this is something I would use in a match as a character. So you have your morticians, your undertakers, your dentists, and your truck drivers, or your dumpster, your garbage men, sanitation workers, etc. Right? You know, why not have your referee gimmicks and all that? So it's a fine gimmick, and he's a Terry Funk figure essentially, right? So all these guys that love Terry Funk, it's a fantastic figure. It's a very playable, solid piece. So, and a very generic piece. So, I kind of look at. So, Series 5. So, Series 5 came out in 1988. Nobody. That's interesting. Nobody really thinks about the referees as being any kind of like based on any type of referee, right? Think about two referees being released: a white shirt and a blue shirt referee. Think about the Hebner twins. Nobody looks at them and be like, "Hey." Nobody thinks that these are the Hebner twins, right? They're just generic, no-face characters. 1988. Andre the Giant defeats Hulk Hogan to become heavyweight champion. Who was it? So Earl Hebner. I can never get them. I can never get them situated correctly. I think Earl Hebner. Was it Earl Hebner was the evil twin, and Dave Hebner was the more common WWF referee? Or was it vice versa? Like I said, man, I'm freaking confused. I always get them mixed up. But evil twin comes in and has the $1 million man money in his pocket and counts 1, 2, 3, even though Hulk Hogan has his arm way up there. And Andre the Giant wins the match. So, you know what? Why couldn't these be Dave and Earl Hebner? It's 1988. It's Series 5. You already got two generic-looking characters. I mean, they both referees look exactly alike, right? So I like to look at the referees as the Hebner twins. Maybe they are really two generic characters, but maybe they had no intention on basing them off of any actual referee, but maybe they intentionally made that mistake. I don't know. Bret Hart. Bret Hart is arguably one of the top 5 greatest wrestlers in history. Definitely one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers ever. This figure alone, it was one of the most special figures I've ever owned. And I've been saying for the longest time, when I did my favorite LJN tournament, I honestly believe that this was very well possibly the one figure that I believed was possibly going to win that first tournament. I thought that this was the best chance of any figure that I had had the opportunity to win. I still believe every single time I make these tournaments, because you know what? Your opinion always changes. How many times in this tournament already have I put over figures that could have easily lost to their competitor in previous tournaments, and they moved on in this tournament? Figures that made it 4 and 5 rounds in previous tournaments have lost to other figures that I potentially rated as being in my top 10 least favorite figures, i.e. white suit $1 million man. A 5th round figure in my first tournament lost to Ken Patera, purple original LJN. A figure that I once classified as a top 10 least favorite LJN figure. Your opinion constantly changes. Bret Hart, I mean, today I still say that Bret Hart is probably a top 13 or top 14 favorite LJN figure, even though I say his pose stinks. He's nothing more than a punch figure, and his pose really isn't all that special. The figure is special only because he's a Bret Hart. Otherwise, if this was really any other character, this figure would suck. Well, his original figure would suck, but the custom work on this is pretty spectacular. The jacket and everything thrown in makes this figure really flawless. The White Sheet Referee is one of those one of these figures I always feel like should always go very far in my tournaments, but he always seems to go up against these top-notch figures so early in the tournaments and can never seem to get over the hump. And going up against Bret Hart, really no competition. Bret Hart moves on to round 3. All right, next medal is another wrestling writer figure, Jim Brunzell, as he takes on Marty Jannetty, and we'll start with Marty. So, Random Treasures, when they came out with the Rockers, splendid. I mean, was the timing... The timing was a little bit odd. I mean, that's... I don't want to say odd. You got to keep up with the market, I guess. So, maybe the timing was right on cue. You talk about marketing, right? And Mitch over at Grapplers and Gimmicks, he recently came out with the Fulmer, I don't know what the heck was his name, Fuller. Dang, how do I forget his name already? But he came out with the Fuller guy from No Holds Barred, and that right there, and considering that both the Hulk Hogan Rip Thomas figure and Zeus figure are also coming out from the next wave of Mattel Retros, I mean, that's perfect timing. The fact that Big Rubber Guys recently released their own Marty Jannetty figure. You know, the fact that Random Treasures came out not only with Marty Jannetty, but also tag team partner Shawn Michaels. Fantastic. Now, where the Big Rubber Guys, they had to go through licensing agreements and get the permission from Shawn Michaels. You know what? As a custom, they don't have to worry about those red flags and have to worry about getting those agreements. They can use a custom figure and create Shawn Michaels, and you know what? We get both rockers. So in that capacity, I'm grateful to have both characters, because ever since I started getting LJN figures, and I went big into getting customs, the rockers were right there at the top of my list of characters that I absolutely wanted to add to my collection. And I am not disappointed with what I got. I mean, are the arm positioning bad? I mean, would I like something a little bit differently? I mean, when I think rockers, this isn't what the pose that I would have dreamt of. Is it a bad pose? I mean, not at all. It's kind of like Freddie Blassie, right? And I love the Freddie Blassie figure, so why would I complain? I mean, it's Freddie Blassie-ish. It's got that Bad News Brown with the one arm way up there, so that kind of sucks. Yeah, the British Bulldogs with one arm up, I don't like that. That kind of kills figures for me. But it's still a very enjoyable, playable figure if you want to. One of these days, I am going to bite the bullet. I am going to start making wrestling matches. I am going to start goofing off and making those matches and start posting them on my channel. I am probably going to embarrass the living heck out of myself, but I think it's going to be so much freaking fun. But if I start doing it, I gotta start doing it sooner rather than later. Because I think if I start doing it now, and it's like 5 years from now and I'm still doing it, it's fine. But if I start doing it 5-10 years later, it's going to look really freaking odd. But the rockers, I want the freaking Rockers to win. One of the Rockers to win this tournament, man. I am such a huge freaking Rockers fan, and I want Marty to win specifically because this man deserves everything. After watching this man get his head thrown through a freaking window, the least Vince McMahon and the WWF could have done is put a damn Intercontinental Championship on him. I mean, wow. And then to insult him by creating a new Rockers like, what the heck? I read that recently because I didn't even know about a new Rockers tag team that was formed. Who was that? I read about it recently. Like, I didn't even know there was a new Rockers tag team. Like, I don't even know who his new tag team was. Al Snow or something. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it was Al Snow. I don't know. I don't even know who Al Snow is. I mean, like, I've got some of his figures, but like, I only know the name because through the collecting phase, I purchased figures for him because his figures are part of series or lines that I collect. That's about it, you know. From Wrestling Rider, Jim Brunzell, I've gotten a couple of different customs from him. And the tie-dye trunks are fantastic. The Jim Brunzell figure in general is an awesome piece. I love the Killer Bee figures. The one thing about Jim Brunzell is kind of like, he's not simply just, straight back. The way that his back is kind of tilted, I don't know what's up with that. But he's an overall quality figure, very fun, serviceable, playable figure. I mean, not the overall greatest play pose in the world. Doesn't have like the greatest body slam pose or anything. But he kind of gives you sort of like that Greg Valentine type pose and everything. And the way that the arm is situated, kind of like a little bit of a Jim Duggan type pose, a little bit. Instead of left arm, right arm. But it's a quality overall playable figure. Great freaking look overall. Like I said, this is kind of like AWA days. I'm trying to think, was it AWA? I know that he had a championship belt in AWA. I don't think he was tag team champion. Maybe it was like AWA television champion or something. I don't know. I thought I had a belt for him for this particular look, but I never watched AWA a day in my life. And like I said, there are certain programs that I didn't know about until I started collecting. Like, I don't think I've even heard of AWA until I started collecting. So it's things you become familiar with until, afterwards. But you do so much collecting and you spend so much time that you build up such a vast knowledge. But what do I talk about when I talk about knowledge and learning? You build up such a vast knowledge of information that over time your brain is so flooded with information that every time you learn something new, something else floods over. So something that you once knew is now gone. So the Kelly Bundy syndrome, as I call it. Oh man, such great figures. But I gotta go with Marty. It's not even a question with this. I mean, it's just such a spectacular piece. Marty Jannetty, he's gonna beat Jim Brunzell. Next one up is going to feature Big Boss Man going up against Macho Man. So, Random Treasures, Macho Man figure, their attempt at a commemorative piece. So, I've said it before. You guys have heard me refer to this figure as a piece that I've always said. It's a figure that I've always wanted to love. It's a figure that I've said I've begged myself, I've hounded myself to want to love this figure. because it's Macho Man. I love Macho Man. It's a guy I grew up watching and admiring. This and the overall aesthetics of the figure is fantastic. Nice color scheme. I mean, it is a very solid look. It is something that you would put on your mantle, and it displays incredibly well. As someone who covets the aesthetics of the fighting pose or play pose, if you will, this particular pose is horrific. This is one of the worst things that you could ever do to an action figure. When Galoob did this to their Ron Simmons, you created possibly one of the worst action figure known to man. And I've seen action figures, LJNs, where they did this with Kerry Von Erich as well. I'm like, why? Terrible. Why would they do that to anything? And then doing that for Macho Man, I feel like there's so many Macho Man figures out there where people just, why do you do that to such an iconic character? And this was one that, when Ram Trust came out, I'm like, I will not get this figure. I refuse. I was just so mad when this one came out. But it aesthetically, it looks so friggin' amazing. So it's like I'm on the border of loving it, but I'm also on the border of absolutely despising it. But it was good enough to make it to my second round. I actually don't mind the figure as much. And when you actually go back and you look at figures that I've actually complained about, like I've complained about the Series 5 Hogans, both the original no shirt plus the remake no shirt with the Ichiban Hogan with the new face and everything, right? They're fine Hogans. And the only thing I complain about those is because I have so many Series 5-esque Hogans, I just didn't like having to buy more and more Hogans. So, but as someone who wants to have the complete collection, but there are just so many variants that I buy from so many different toy companies. I mean, I don't, how can I complain about random treasures when I'm buying the same variants from all these other toy companies? I mean, how many times you buy the exact same variants or same figure, different color schemes from Grapplers and Gimmicks and Zombie Sailors, etc. But you're also looking at $35, $40 figures compared to $130, $140 figures. So, I mean, that does play a huge difference as well, right? So, it's okay. It's it's not a horrific. It's not a figure that I would have loved to pay over $100 for. If this was like a $50 piece, I probably wouldn't have said two words about it as far as being bad about picking it up. It is what it is. Play pose, yeah, it sucks. I will never be happy about the play pose. Having it now, looking at it, having it on my shelf, I'm happy to have it. House burns down, somebody writes me a check. I gotta go back and start going and rebuying everything I've ever had or attempting to. And I'm saying, hey, I'm dedicating this amount of money to going back and building my collections. Do I go back and buy this figure? Yeah, I would try my best to get all of the Ram Treasure figures right. So yes, this would be, I would go back and buy this. And depending on the amount of money that I have available, I might go back and get this multiple times. I might get this in orange. I might get this in green trunks. Heck, I might get this in purple trunks, pink trunks, who knows? Big Boss Man. Now, you want to talk about one of the most lopsided matches of this entire tournament. Big Boss Man, when I purchased, who did I get it from? Who did I get it from? Was it Martin? I think Martin is the guy I brought it from. I think Martin from Alaska, if I'm not mistaken. My mint on card AFA graded, Big Boss Man figure. That right there, as I've always said, is my absolute holy grail of my collection. If I have to sell everything I've ever owned, well, my collection wise, that is the one item I will never sell. It's probably my most valuable item of my entire collection. I mean, maybe my Ultimate Warrior is probably more valuable. Possibly Andre is Black Card is probably possibly more valuable. But no, I think my Big Boss Man, that's the one item that I covet more than anything. I've always said if I could have one mint on card, the Big Boss Man. I mean, the Big Boss Man, it figured to me, just checks all the freaking boxes, everything. One thing, namesake. I grew up watching the Big Boss Man. Huge freaking fan of the Boss Man. Alright? As a good guy, love the way the man freaking talked. Love the way he wrestled. I actually remember Boss Man from childhood, so that is a huge upgrade. Number 2, he comes with an accessory. Not a necessity, but that plays a huge that is a huge upgrade. That is a huge attribute to when you're making your decision of favorite figures. Number 3, he is not just simply, black trunks, black boots, simple paint scheme. He has got amazing colors, okay? He's got significant colors throughout. And this is what I talk about why guys like Honky Tonk Man and Ted DiBiase, Big Boss Man, why these figures stand out, why I love them in clothing. Guys in trunks and boots, or guys like Ricky Steamboat with black pants, those don't do anything. Their color scheme is so simple and plain. These colors, they pop. And if he's all black, this same thing. It would be very plain and simple, but his colors they pop. They stand out to you. His color scheme stands out. He has an unbelievable, fantastic play pose. Perfect clothesline, perfect punches, perfect body slam pose. Not the same as Big John Studd, Kamal, and all those guys, but he does have the very similar legs bent and legs apart. Again, not identical, but close enough. So if you want that whole, what's a good figure? If you want that good, to be body slam pose, I mean, it's adequate. And he is a heavy figure. Not quite as heavy as like a King Kong Bundy, but he's a heavy figure. He's a big, husky, hefty, heavy figure. Okay? So, once upon a time, I rated him at number 6. Just behind Greg Valentine, number 5. That is insane. I kind of feel like, realistically, if I went back and redid my top all-time favorite LJN figures, Big Boss Man is not a number 6 best LJN figure. Realistically, I don't care who you are, who your favorite wrestler is growing up, how you feel about the LJNs. There is not a person on this planet that has ever lived that should look at any LJN figure and ever think otherwise. This legitimately should be the number 1 greatest LJN figure ever made. So when I talk about the one figure that legitimately has probably the greatest opportunity to win this tournament and unseat Bruiser Brody as champion every single time I make this tournament. Yes, this is the figure. Oddly enough, I think in the first tournament, he didn't even make it out of the second round. Like what the heck? How? I mean, I know how because the figure that eliminated him made it to the semifinals, but in the last tournament, he was actually in the finals. He was one of the last three standing, and that's exactly where he belongs. Now, if he's in the finals again, one of the last two, or if it's a three-man finals again, which it most likely will be, am I going to have the strength to push him over? Let's say it's him and Bruiser Brody again. Am I going to have the strength to push him over, knowing that Bruiser Brody is a two-time champion? And what's that? I do covet him more than Bruiser Brody. That's going to be the tough thing. I've talked about it before. Is finally pushing a figure over someone that I've already coveted and already pushed forward twice. But this legitimately should be the greatest figure ever. But we'll see what happens. But this right here is a no-brainer. Big Boss Man moves forward to round 3. Last matchup is from Mark Hackenberg, his Billy Jack Haynes taking on Goldust. So, Goldust, I don't know if this came from Eric. The reason I say that is because I know Eric had a Goldust that he made from Nikolai Volkov. Now, I never bought Goldust from him. But I remember him having one, and I think he sold it on eBay or something. Now, this one, I don't think I bought this from Harvey on Mercari. I don't remember who I bought this from. It may have been Harvey. Like I said, I don't remember. But, you know, it's possible so-and-so bought it from Eric, and maybe I bought it from so-and-so later on. Or, heck, maybe it made it through the rounds. Eric sold it to this person, who sold it to that person, who sold it to that person, and maybe I bought it from that person. You know, it's possible. But this is fantastic. Goldust. He is another one of those characters who, when I started collecting LJNs, and it's like you don't realize which characters you might covet until you actually think about them, or maybe you see a figure. It's like, or maybe you watch an old video, like, yes, I would love to have this guy as LJN. Like I saw a Facebook, what was it, like Sin Bodhi, or maybe it was either Sin Bodhi, or maybe Zashman or someone had like a 3D printed version of nails for LJN, and I'm like, heck yeah, I want that figure, and it looks spectacular. And you know, anything that came out during the Hasbro era, you know I want those guys, right? So, but anything that's Nikolai Volkov body type is spectacular. I really covet the pose. The body type is an awesome. Nikolai Volkov, obviously, his body is much huskier, thicker, right? You know, Dustin Rhodes was a lot slimmer and whatnot, so I don't know if the body necessarily fits as well, but this is actually a pretty nice combination, because look at the arms and the hands. The way that the arms and hands are situated, up and in really tight, you know, forearms really small, hands really small. So the poses are actually very similar to an extent. And I think I had like Billy Jack Haynes, like my number 11 all-time favorite LJN. And I think like Nikolai Volkov, for example, was like my number 15 favorite LJN or something like that. So, you know, very, very closely resembling, very close in comparison figures. You know, I used to watch Goldust, and I think I told this story before about Goldust. And I think before Dustin Rhodes took on the persona of Goldust in the early '90s, I used to watch the cartoon Sailor Moon, and there was a character in Sailor Moon called Tuxedo Mask, and Tuxedo Mask, obviously he'd wear this tuxedo. He'd have the black sunglasses and the top hat and everything. And his thing is he'd have these red roses, and he'd throw them and they'd kind of explode and whatnot. And I kind of had as a kid, I kind of created the same character. Only I called him Goldust, but instead of throwing red roses, I'd throw red or gold roses, and they'd explode. And it was kind of funny that I created this character Goldust, and maybe a couple years later, this character Goldust appears in WWF, and I'm like, man, you guys ripped me off, you son of a gun. Obviously, this looked nothing like what I created in my head. But still, that was pretty freaking awesome. If it was simply if this was simply a Nikolai Volkov versus Hillbilly, Billy Jack Haynes, Billy Jack Haynes would win this matchup. I actually like Billy Jack Haynes, and I like what Mark did with this figure. He actually alternated the color scheme on this figure. But I'm gonna make another shocking. I'm gonna make another shocking decision. I'm gonna choose Goldust in this matchup. I think I would have chosen Billy Jack Haynes, but I think if I'm not mistaken, Billy Jack Haynes' original is already in this tournament, and I think he's already moved on to round 3. So Billy Jack Haynes technically already is in the 3rd round. So it would be nice to have a Goldust moving on to the next round. So that kind of helped make my decision. And like I said, man, these two figures, they really are neck and neck. So there really wasn't a wrong answer. So I like Goldust. Mark, you did a phenomenal job here. No qualms whatsoever. But I'm going to go with Goldust to move on to round 3. All right, guys. So like I said, tomorrow, look for a quick 7-minute video or 10-minute video. I don't know. I think it was like 7 minutes. It's going to be a Coliseum video, and that's going to be posted in the morning time. And then 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to do a quick live show. If a lot of people show up, if you guys ask a lot of questions, I'll be able to answer a lot of things. Depending on how many people show up, it's going to determine how long my live show goes. If I just I'm going to have a little cue card. I'm going to check off some boxes of things I want to talk about. And if it's just me kind of going over topics of discussion, things of what's going to be happening in the coming weeks, it'll be like a 20-minute video. Other than that, if people want to come in and chat, and could go 30 minutes, could go an hour, 2 hours, shoot. But I don't fancy being on that long, but hey, I'll stay on as long as other people want me to be on. So it's as simple as that. I got nowhere to be. But guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see you guys.